Well, I gotta talk about this. It's like, you know, some of these people are like, but it's like sometimes you're nice to Nintendo, but then like other times you're really mean to them. I don't get it. Yeah, it's almost like sometimes they do awesome stuff, but sometimes they do really dumb stuff. Anyway, so if you're unaware, I believe over PAX weekend, it sort of came out while NBA 2K18 was being demoed at the show, that the game would need additional storage space on the Switch for the physical version. And that, yes, even if you bought the physical version of the game, the full game isn't on there. You're going to need storage space on your Switch too, I guess, to download the rest of the game. From what I'm hearing, these games will be playable in a sort of limited mode, where only certain features, I guess, are available. I don't know, it's just, what a mess. I believe they also said there was like an issue with Resident Evil Revelations. They're doing like a 2-pack of 1 and 2. And what I've heard is that only, I believe, the first game is on the actual cartridge that you'll buy, but you have to download the entire second game. I mean, I hope that's not true, but that's, you know, you can correct me in the comments if that's wrong, but man, if that's true, that's so ridiculous. And before I get too deep into it, I want to address that I've seen some people talking about like, oh, well, they could get bigger cards for the game. They're just more expensive or something like that. For third parties, I'd say that's not a good excuse, especially if you're Nintendo. You do not want to be putting up any more barriers between third parties and your players than you already have. Like, oh, just eat the cost of having bigger cards. Nintendo, this is your system. The whole storage on the Switch cards deal is your issue. And yeah, we've seen some of the solution. Oh, we're rolling out Nintendo-branded SanDisks to suit your storage needs. Oh, what a coincidence. Kinda like the Vita? Is that it? No, calm your little typing fingers, fanboy. I'm not saying this is as bad as the Vita's proprietary, overpriced memory cards. Let's make that clear. But that doesn't mean we just ignore it. Again, I see stuff like this in the comments all the time. Oh, you're complaining about this, but you're okay with the way the Vita handled storage? No, we're not talking about the Vita for one. I'm not going to go through every storage issue the gaming industry has ever seen before I talk about this one. And just because someone did something worse doesn't mean everything everyone else does that is less bad gets a free pass. We call out everything in these parts of the internet. To me, the solution is simple. The Switch should have had more onboard storage. 32 gigs, including the OS, was a joke when they did it for the Wii U, and even though you can argue this is more of a handheld, 32 gigs of built-in storage for the Switch is a joke now. And I want to also say, you know, Nintendo does this whole deal where they're like, oh, we don't want to seem deceptive, so we're going to clearly mark it on the box when a game requires additional storage. A couple of things on that. Nintendo, you need to stop living in your little bubble on a lot of things. This is actually a small one, but, you know, with things like the way you handle online, etc., different isn't always better. Especially in 2017, when people expect, when they buy a console, they expect to be able to put the games in it and for them to simply just work. We're not, you know, if people want to fiddle with things like memory, storage, graphics cards, they buy a PC when they want to fiddle with stuff like that. Okay, they buy a console for the simplicity. And two, if you were so concerned about not coming off as deceptive, why weren't you upfront about this before, I don't know, millions of people bought the system? Unless, am I supposed to believe that this is an issue you just discovered now? The Switch went through years of development, R&D, started getting sold in stores, and just recently you guys had a meeting or something and somebody was sitting there and goes, oh, you know what? Not all the games are going to fit on these cards. Come on. Am I really supposed to, is that really what I'm supposed to believe? But yeah, Nintendo should have taken care of this storage issue right off the bat. Simple, include one of these, say the 64 gig cards, with your system. You knew this was going to be an issue. You should have solved it from the get-go. But that costs money. I don't want my favoriteest game company of all time to spend money on making a better product. I've seen these things range in price, but typically around 30 bucks on the more expensive side for the 64 gigs. Oh my god, that means the system would have to cost $330. No. Jesus. Yes, these things may retail around there for us, But when you're a company like Nintendo, who was already doing this partnership, yes, I'm assuming talks with SanDisk have been going on for a while. If you were to say, order a few million of these direct from SanDisk to put with the Nintendo Switches, you'd probably qualify for what we call a bulk discount. So no, it wouldn't have this huge impact on the cost of the system, especially again since so much of this was in play. You know, the partnership with SanDisk, etc. Obviously, this is something they were looking into. They should have been looking into it and solving this problem, again, before the system released. Just like the goofy stuff with the Wii U, I think not as bad, but I think this is going to come back to bite them a little bit. I see some confusion ahead for casuals who, again, are making the error in your mind of expecting a game they buy to just work in their gaming console in 2017. Actually, I think it reminds me more of the N64 expansion pack. Wasn't that kind of how that worked? It was like if there was the games that required the expansion pack, and if you didn't have it, you could still play at least some of those games, but like you could only play certain parts. At least that's how I remember it. Maybe I just exposed myself as a fake nerd, but I feel like the issues people are going to encounter if they don't have, you know, an extra SD card are going to be similar to that. So it's like we're in the 90s again. And while yes, this video is very negative, this is a negative situation. You're not going to flip this as, oh, this is actually great for the consumers. No, it's simply just an issue, and it's one that could have been solved. This video doesn't come with like a silver lining, like, oh, this is going to get better. No, it's a dumb issue. And that is a thing, if I'm going to bring things around to the way I started the video. If you're trying to figure me out, oh, am I a Nintendo fanboy, am I a Nintendo hater? I am a consumer fanboy. I'm a fan of the consumer, and when I see the consumer being taken advantage of, I don't like it. When I see the consumer getting a good deal, I praise it. That's what I do. And with that, I'm going to wrap this video. Should be enough fuel to the fanboy flames for now. Let me know your thoughts on the whole Nintendo Switch storage issue in the comments. I'm sure some of you out there can warp some reasoning into why this is fantastic for the players. As always, I'm John Zakari, and thanks for watching.